that eliminate the confusion and complexity sometimes associated with legal matters. Our high standard for client care and concern, coupled with our extensive legal knowledge and skills, make Hampton Law a resource focused on the protection of the client's interest and overall goals. We value our clients and truly enjoy working with them. Visit thamptonlaw.com to conveniently schedule an appointment online. Tamika Hampton Esquire, 1631 Rock Springs Road, Suite 336, Apopka, Florida, 407-494-1471. thamptonlaw.com.
Don't worry, Ma, we'll be there soon.
We? Is this the one?
Well, let's say I found the one who takes me to another level. Always stays calm under pressure. Most importantly, the one that helps me discover the coolest places.
This sounds wonderful.
Come outside, I'll introduce you.
You're here.
Definitely the one.
Introducing the all-new Nissan Frontier.
I'm returning to Clinton Parish, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Parish, we take the pain out of being hurt.
For five-star backyards, Yellowwood brand pressure-treated pine. If it doesn't have this yellow tag, you don't want it.
Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield, never not working.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
Bounty versus the old family dish towel. Drying with a fresh sheet of Bounty leaves your hands cleaner than a used dish towel that can carry and redistribute food residue. So ditch the dish towel for better hand hygiene. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Q Time is a classic Atlanta soul food restaurant located in the historic West End. Q Time Soul Food is a family business started by Fred and Christine Crenshaw. Come on in, relax, and sink your chops into our tantalizing, mouth-watering, distinctive soul food with a twist, the Q Time way. 1120 Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, or call your order in at 404-758-2881. Do you miss your mama's cooking? Then come on down to Q Time, an Urban Passport member.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
Some carriers will give you just one measly entertainment subscription. One is no fun. With Verizon, there's up to 7 entertainment subscriptions with your unlimited plan. That's 7 times the... 7 times the... No! 7 times the... Music, gaming, Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN Plus, and more. That's 7 times the entertainment! Because everyone deserves better. And with plans starting at just $35, better costs less than you think.
But earmuff, you stay on hard.
All right. Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to a live edition of the BCSN SportsWrap. My name is Brian Fulford, and that's A.D. Drew. And it's good to be on live with you today. Drew, how you doing today?
Doing fine with everything considered there, Brian.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So it's good to be on the air, have an opportunity to talk to everybody, kind of do what it is we do. Obviously, this is going to be a very tough week for a lot of us in our spaces, so let me kind of start our show by, of course, paying tribute and taking a moment to honor our Black College Sports Network brother, a friend to so many, and just one of the genuine supporters of HBCUs, and in particular Florida A&M University. Kofi Hemmingway, our Black College Sports Network brother, who was a co-host with me on the ONG Strike Zone. Also had a show called The Afterglow with Scotty from Off Script Videos every Monday night. Passed away earlier a few days ago on Thursday in his home in Jacksonville, Florida. Kofi was 52 years old, and I'm going to read primarily from a great tribute that Vaughn Wilson wrote on HBCUGameDay.com to keep me focused here in this segment. I'll read hopefully you all have had a chance to read the opening paragraph in this article. All HBCUs have them, people who seem to live every minute of their lives supporting the institution. They will point out flaws at times, but for the most part, they are patriots for the school, protecting it from all corners. For Florida A&M, Kofi Hemmingway was the epitome of this type of supporter. As they often say about loyal fanatics, he bled orange and green. And that is, without a doubt, so very true. I say that for me, and hold on, I'm rambling here already, doing a bad job. So let me go back to the article. I said I want to do this to kind of keep me focused here. Kofi, 52, passed on Thursday in his home in Jacksonville. As many of you know, we missed Kofi on Wednesday. Kofi had texted us Wednesday afternoon in our group chat just to say he wasn't feeling well and he wasn't going to be on the show. I personally, and I'll say this to everybody, don't take things for granted with friends and people you love, because I wish I could have called him. I wish I would have called him just to check and say, hey man, everything all right? But you kind of take things for granted, especially in this day where we text things so fast that, oh, he's not feeling well, we'll talk to him later, he'll tell us he watched the show, we'll talk to him the next day. There was no day for us, for me. Kofi was a minister for Global Prophetic Training and Worship Embassy. He was known to be prophetic, traveling the country, spreading the word at conferences and revivals all across the Southeast. Again, this is me reading from this beautiful tribute piece that was written by Vaughn Wilson and HBCUGameday.com. His most recent popularity came from his appearance as one of the hosts of the ONG Strike Zone, which is a weekly broadcast on YouTube, part of the Jericho Broadcasting Network. The show would focus on all things FAMU, centered around sports, but the show would often have subjects outside of athletics and even outside of FAMU. He was also a part of, as I mentioned, he would make guest appearances on Off Script, an in-your-face talk show that was involved heavily in HBCU Sports Matters. And of course, that was the Afterglow show that he would do with Scotty every Monday. They were great together. And I've seen the clip out there, and there's a clip where he and Scotty are kind of going back and forth talking about a camel. And I swear, when I first heard that, I was driving. I had to pull over.
You almost had the accidents.
I had an accident. I bust a gut laughing because he's talking about a camel more related to Campbell University. Scotty's like, and what's crazy is the thought that Scotty was like, I almost said, what sound does a camel make moo? And I thought the very same thing at the same time. And those two were very good together. Two very passionate, entertaining individuals. And so for anybody who's watched that show, you were blessed to receive and enjoy that show in its form. And so I know, as much as it hit us on our show and within our Black College Sports Network family, it was an equal gut punch for Scotty and his wife, and their, and everything that they're doing and putting together there. Kofi, a quote here from our co-host Kelvin, who was a childhood and lifelong friend, said, "I'm still in shock. The night we received the call," he said, "I maybe got an hour's sleep last night. It just doesn't seem real." Coach Willie Simmons, also taken aback, said, quote, "We are deeply saddened to hear about the passing of one of FAMU's beloved supporters. Kofi was not only an ambassador of FAMU and FAMU athletics, but he was also a family friend, as well as our kids' tennis instructor," Simmons said. "He utilized his voice for good through ONG Strike Zone, and he will surely be missed. We're thankful that we were able to be blessed by the beautiful spirit that was Kofi Hemmingway, and may his memory live on through all who loved him." That's from Florida A&M head football coach Willie Simmons. Scotty had a very brief but moving tribute, Scotty of the Off-Script show, on Friday morning. If you had a chance to catch it, he was visibly moved. And I know he will do a tribute show tomorrow So I will encourage everybody to go and tune in to Off Script on Monday night and watch that show, and be a great opportunity to to share your thoughts and memories. And on Wednesday night on the ONG Strike Zone, we'll obviously do a show. We've got guests that we're lining up to come on to talk with us about Kofi and his influences among FAMU culture. But I want to say this, and for me personally, the outpouring of love and support that I've seen on social media is beautiful, and it's moving that so many people were touched in some form or fashion by Kofi. And if you're one of those people that are like, hey, how can I help? Kofi is survived by his wife, Akeisha, daughters, Lourdes and Majesty, and his mother, Miss Beulah Hemmingway. And his parents are very well-known professors. His late father, Dr. Hemmingway, was one of the most well-known, beloved African-American studies professors at Florida A&M. His mother, I believe, was an English professor. He was a part of the Marching 100. Kofi was he was a tennis player. He touched every aspect of Florida A&M University, and he even eventually became the voice of Bragg Stadium, the voice that Florida A&M Rattlers would hear on home games, and even at the Florida Classic on those occasions when FAMU would host from 2016 to 2018. So Kofi was FAMU, and so as you can see, if you'd like to make a contribution to the family, his wife has asked that right now any contributions or any love offerings be sent to that Cash App. And right now we don't know any details yet. So hopefully as we learn more about viewings and things of that nature, I'm sure maybe that'll come over the course of the week. We will share that via our page, the Black College Sports Network page at MyBCSN1, the ONG Strike Zone at ONG Strike Zone. And so I'll turn it over to you, Drew, and I'll just say, for me personally, the biggest thing that I'm appreciative of Kofi is that he reignited my love of Florida A&M, my love of my university, in a way that I really hadn't felt since those days when I was an undergrad. When you are first choosing to go to a college, you are all about that school, and you're wearing the gear. You're bragging to anybody who'll listen, any and everybody. Oh man, you should come to FAMU or come to wherever, and those years, those first few years on the yard, you probably, if you stayed, you probably had a good experience, and you loved going home. You loved traveling places. You loved representing FAMU. You loved running into alumni. That I lost that love, to be honest with you, somewhere after I graduated, and just trying to get ahead of life. And so for about 20 years of my life, I probably lost that fire. And being around Kelvin, and especially being around Kofi, reignited that for me. And that is what I feel charged to carry on until I see Kofi again, in some form or fashion, till the day I die. And I will always hold that with me as sort of a thank you and a tribute to him for the time that we spent, and not nearly enough. Not so many other things I wanted to do with us in our show that obviously we won't have an opportunity to do. But I'll kind of sucked up a lot of the air there, Drew. So I'll give you an opportunity to share your thoughts there.
I mean, it's all good, Brian, because this is therapy. This is therapy for people like you and I. This is where we run to when we have those moments. When as undergrads on the yard, I did not know Kofi all that well. I knew of Kofi, but I didn't really know Kofi all that well as an undergrad. You know, we just had a couple common friends, and when those friends would be in the same space and place, then you know it was cordial, but we weren't hanging out buddies or anything else like that at Florida A&M. It wasn't until I started working with the Black College Sports Network, and then later on during my time with the Black College Sports Network that Kofi and I came across each other again. And I remember when you hit me with the idea about the ONG Strike Zone. Well, it was unnamed at that point. It was a FAMU centered show. I remember this, and you know, you told me who was going to be your co-host on the show, and I was like, who the hell are they? I don't remember them. You know, just because as we get older, the people who we aren't around, you just don't, you don't remember them. You know, one of the reasons you and I still remembered each other is because we had a good common friend, your former roommate, who happened to be from my hometown, who also, unfortunately, we lost way too early in life. That being Cliff Reed, who was big with the Black College Sports Network until he passed away. So for us at the Black College Sports Network, that's been two prominent contributors to the success of this network who we have lost way too soon. And for most of the viewers out there, Cliff was around before we were into the video portion of the Black College Sports Network with the podcast, and we were doing games, but this was when everything was just a strictly audio podcast when he was around. And I wake up Friday morning, and you know, when you wake up, I glance at my phone and I just see a couple of alerts and everything. You know, you always get those messages overnight and everything on your phone, on your Twitter, on your Facebook, on your IG, or whatever. And for some reason, I opened up my phone that morning and checked Facebook. And lo and behold, at the top of my Facebook timeline, I see a post from Roy saying basically what it said to go on, and I see the picture of Kofi, and I'm like, so I act, you know, all tired-eyed and like, wait a minute, hold on, let me read this, and I had to read it 3 times for it to sink in. So you know, you go through, you process it, and you go throughout the day. I don't remember which one of you guys I talked to first. I don't know if I talked to you or I talked to Roy first. Just like, did anybody know what happened? And of course, you know, still don't know. I'm thinking maybe car accident, or you know, when somebody you lose that close to you in age, when we are still this young, you're thinking something along those lines, and then to find out, you know, that he had passed away, just kind of hit me. And then, you know, later on the day, I sent out a text to everybody. We are all in a group chat together, and of course, that group chat would never be the same because Kofi was always the one who would come from left field sometimes with a comment, and then the next time he just come with something just funny and off the wall. But that was Kofi. That was Kofi. And you would love to debate with him, be it in our chat group or on the show. And sometimes I used to sit back and just watching the show when I wasn't producing the show and just laugh at y'all, man. Just laugh. And sometimes when can you hear me? Can you hear me? Maybe you need to log off and log back on. Brian, Kelvin, and how he just cut you off because he gonna get his point in one way or the other. And that was cool. So I got to give you credit though, Brian, because you host me, you put up with me, and you put up with a lot of us because you are one of the you're probably the primary host here on the Black College Sports Network and our lead play-by-play guy. And for you to put up with so many personalities and to manage so many personalities and styles as you navigate through these shows, I just want to give you props and for managing that show, because when y'all get into it on the OMG, sometimes I don't know how you do it, man. How you do it. And there was one thing, and for all you rattlers out there, I know this would be one of Kofi's wish. Get FAMU athletics right. Let's get FAMU athletics. That's all he was about. Let's get FAMU back to the glory days. Let's get FAMU athletics right. He would ride Dr. Robinson, but he wouldn't ride Dr. Robinson out of disrespect. He rode Dr. Robinson out of his love for Florida A&M University and other people there when they would be in questionable situations or questionable decisions. He did that out of a love and a passion that most of us do not have, and not only for our institution, but for very few things in life, Brian. And that's the way that this brother felt about Florida A&M University, and not just Florida A&M University, HBCU athletics in general. He loved HBCU, and he would take you to bat on it. And Lord Jesus, don't let him think that he had some proof or reference or something, and you were coming from another point. He was quick to throw it out. No, this is my point of view right here. This is my reference. This is the work I'm citing, and I would just love to go at it sometimes, or see him go at it with other people, and just give his opinion. Passionate, my brother, passionate. And I don't know if this may be the appropriate time or the place to say this, Brian, but sometimes I'm gonna pull out my inner Kofi. I really don't care right now. I'm gonna say it. Fellas and ladies, of course, we don't know what led to Kofi's passing, but this is once again another reminder for us to get those wellness checks that we need to get done. Now, we don't know if what happened with Kofi is something that could have been foreseen in a wellness check, or if it was just something that came on. But it's just a reminder when situations like this come up. Make sure we are up on those wellness checks. Whatever you're supposed to do at age 40 or at age 45 or at age 50, male, female. Get those things done, because in our community, we are the leaders in death in so many of these categories, from diabetes to cancer to hypertension to prostate cancer to breast cancer to stuff that can be prevented if we do what we want to do. But Brian, we too afraid to go to the damn doctor. Yes, I'm sorry, I said it. We're too afraid to go to the doctor. We're too afraid to see about that ouch that we got right there. Nah, we tough. Or I just take a shot or something, or take me some aspirin, and it's gonna be all right. sometimes it's not gonna be all right. You know, I did, just over a year ago, Brian, I lost my baby sister. And those thoughts came back with that. To just think back, maybe if she would have saw somebody, and she was 38 years old, Brian, maybe she would have saw somebody, they would have known about the condition that she had that we didn't know about. But get fellas, ladies, get yourself checked out. Don't be afraid. If you know your body better than anybody. If it ain't right, go see somebody. And if they tell you no, you crazy in the head, go find you another damn doctor that's gonna take the time and try to work through stuff with you. Because we have all been to the doctor, especially doctors that don't look like us. And they don't understand your body. Or if you're a former athlete, former athletes have different things that happen to them because of their playing days. You have got to do these things. We have got to live. Our time on this earth is borrowed, Brian. But
Amen.
Damn it, I want to get the most that I can out of it while I am here. No one knows the time nor the place, but anything that I can do to extend my time in this place, I need to do it. And last thing, Brian, while I'm on it, while you're going to get those bumps and bruises and those aches and pains checked out, every now and then, you need to go get this checked out too. Don't be afraid to go get a mental wellness check too. Mental health. Don't be afraid to go talk to a counselor. Don't be afraid. The pastor is cool, but the pastor don't always have all the answers. We good to go to the church to talk to the pastor, but sometimes you got to go beyond the pastor. You got to go to somebody else. And most jobs out there usually have a wellness number, a 1-800 number that they partner with for mental health for their employees. I know the last few employees that I've had have a 1-800 number that they can partner with, that you can at least talk to somebody on the phone, and it's 100% covered with my insurance. So find out those things. Please find out those things. And last but not least, and I'm just talking in general, y'all, make sure that your family is taken care of. We don't need to be doing chicken dinners and car washes to bury nobody. Make sure you got your insurance. And make sure that it come out your check or out your bank account every month, so that your family does not get put in a position to have to beg money. They should be giving money. People should have to be giving money out the kindness of their heart, not because they have to bury you. I'm sorry, Brian. I done went on a total tangent.
No. You're you're good. You're good. Because I as I'm just kind of reading through the chats, Edwin Moore kind of reminded me of something that Kofi did tell us last year. He said that around the end of last year, Kofi mentioned that he was changing his eating habits and made a point to encourage us all to pay attention to how we are taking care of our health. And so you'd be right on the line with that. And it's a great reminder. It's a great reminder for us all that I'm particularly guilty of this. Don't be too lazy. Don't be too scared. Don't be too brave to think that you can't go get some help. So
I can't take off work because I'm not feeling good. But I need to go to work because I got to pay this bill. That bill gonna be there when you die.
True. So as we kind of wrap this segment, we had to take this opening segment to kind of just reflect on Kofi again. We'll talk more on Wednesday night, the ONG Strike Zone Wednesday. That's 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central. Of course, I'm going to encourage you all to go. If you've never watched the Afterglow show, if you've heard of Off Script and you've never watched the show, I would encourage you. Tomorrow's a good day to go, as I'm sure Scotty will do a great tribute show in honor of Kofi. Again, they did their Afterglow show every Monday night. I believe usually it was around the 8 p.m. time. And you know, it's funny. This is in the text, in the post, and I tell you, Drew, it was so hard that first night just putting that announcement out that I really didn't do it the night. You know, I get the call just about after midnight, somewhere between close to 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm going and looking for, is this real? What just happened? And I couldn't even post anything because just typing his name just felt surreal. So I kind of, I just had to go lay in the bed, pray a little, cry a little, just go watch just kind of look at some different things and post, and I was up all night. And so as I kind of put the words out on social media that morning, I put it out there and I said that, and I didn't want to make it sound like this is like in a ranking order of what he loved, but I felt really strong that I could say Kofi loved God, he loved his family, and he loved FAMU with a fervor that, I mean, it is unspeakable and so passionate that that was his pride and joy and priorities. I'm sure there's other things in other people, but you know, God, family, and FAMU in that order. Perspective,
faith, family,
priorities.
Faith, family, and FAMU. The 3 F's, Brian.
There
faith, family, and FAMU.
With that said, we'll close this segment.
Last thing.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Great tributes on both Twitter and YouTube from people who I've never even heard of, who all pay tribute to Kofi for him touching.
And there
are people still in their lives.
There are people still finding out. I just got a text from my sister. This is how crazy this is. I got a text from my sister literally while we're on the show. My dad is she's with my dad at a Walmart in Atlanta. My dad's rocking this FAMU skull cap I bought him. They run into an alum, and you know, my sister just happens to mention, "Hey, did you know Kofi Hemmingway?" And she was like, "No." She was like, "Yes, I did know him. I went to school with him. I was 2 years behind him." And so my sister, she didn't know that he had passed. So I mean, this is like, people are still kind of finding out, and so it'll be like that over the next few days because everybody's not on social media 24/7 like the few 100,000 of us that are. I mean, there's millions of people out there, and so
and Mondays is the biggest day for social media, according to the numbers. So a lot of people who may not have found out Friday, they won't log back on again until Monday when they get to their offices. Because that's a lot of people log on to social media.
So for all of you out there, I would again encourage you, if you haven't retweeted or shared in your networks, we all have various networks and groups. I know he was a band alum, so I know there are band groups out there. There's FAMU chat groups. He was a FAMU DRS alum. He lived in Jacksonville. In your groups, just share the word, share the message, let people know. And thank you, Kofi. And we'll talk more about him through the rest of this week and forever until I see him again. We'll be back in just a moment. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap.
We are making the virtual HBCU experience available wherever you live through Stillman Online. We offer online degrees in business, criminal justice, psychology, and religion. Stillman also offers technology badges in cybersecurity and data analytics. You can participate in all student activities, fraternities and sororities, internships, graduation ceremonies, and much more. Apply for admission today at stillman.edu. Stillman College, where we prepare you for a different world.
Sugar Chateau Desserts is a specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
At Hampton Law, our primary goal is to provide non-traditional yet effective solutions and redefine the approach to client legal concerns. As your trusted legal advisor, we believe in sophisticated, personalized services that eliminate the confusion and complexity sometimes associated with legal matters. Our high standard for client care and concern, coupled with our extensive legal knowledge and skills, make Hampton Law a resource focused on the protection of the client's interest and overall goals. We value our clients and truly enjoy working with them. Visit thamptonlaw.com to conveniently schedule an appointment online. Tamika Hampton Esquire, 1631 Rock Springs Road, Suite 336, Apopka, Florida, 407-494-1471. thamptonlaw.com.
Don't worry, Ma, we'll be there soon.
We? Is this the one?
Well, let's say I found the one who takes me to another level. Always stays calm under pressure. Most importantly, the one that helps me discover the coolest places.
This sounds wonderful.
Come outside, I'll introduce you.
They're here.
Definitely the one.
Introducing the all-new Nissan Frontier.
I'm returning to Clinton Parish, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Parish, we take the pain out of being heard.
For five-star backyards, Yellowwood brand pressure-treated pine. If it doesn't have this yellow tag, you don't want it.
Troy, you work here? I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulder Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working. Head & Shoulder Scalp Shield, never not working.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Bryan and A.D here, and no, your eyes are not deceiving you. We did make a quick wardrobe change. I am personally paying off a bet. Seeing it's basketball season, I'm paying off a basketball bet that I lost to Dr. Cavill, who's a PV grad. So this might be the one time you see me rocking Prairie A&M gear. Shout out to PV A&M. I will not be
The
making
other
any more
A&M.
bets. Yeah, I won't be
at
making
other
any
ag
bets.
schools.
I won't be making any bets surrounding FAMU basketball. As Kofi would tell me every time I mentioned that I had made a bet with FAMU basketball, he would just say, "What? Boy, are you crazy? You just want to lose money. You just don't want to hold on to money, do you?" So yeah, I think this was Drew. I made this bet after FAMU went to Texas Southern
And
and
beat
won,
Texas
and
Southern
I was we
in
whooped
Texas.
in
For some
Texas, and I
reason,
thought
you
we were going
thought
to
they
get.
were going to do the Texas two-step.
I thought we were going to do the Texas two-step, and we were going to get right, and that was going to be the what we needed to start getting ourselves together to go to the SWAC tournament. I think the next week we went to Alabama A&M and won, or maybe that was 2 weeks later or something. I don't know, but I foolishly bet Dr. Cavill, and he tried to warn me. He tried to warn me, but I was not hearing it, and I think we lost by like 30. I think we lost by 30 that game. So yeah, I won't be. So this is me, Doc, wearing some preview gear. Took a minute to come in, but I got you. So
Got to use
I won't be
Amazon
making any
Prime,
more
right?
bets. I won't be making any more bets surrounding FAMU basketball for the foreseeable future. Drew, it's not profitable. It is not profitable. I'll tell you that much. All right. So it is March, and we do have a lot of March type things to talk about. We wanted to kind of do a quick rundown of just the past, recapping, the NCAA tournament for Howard, Texas Southern, Southern University, Norfolk State. Then on the well, let's see. Then on the NIT level, you had Alcorn State. You had Morgan State and Jackson State in the women's NIT. And then in the NAIA level, we had Langston and Tougaloo. And so we could draw a circle around all of those teams, Drew, and just kind of put an L. Lost. No, but really, actually, the one team that did get a win over the past week was Tougaloo. So we'll kind of start with the NAIA. Tougaloo ended up advancing to the Elite Eight as they won their opening round contest in the Sweet 16 round. They ended up losing to. Did they end up losing, Drew, to the eventual national champ? Because they advanced to play the number one overall seed. I don't know. I know that team made it to the championship game. I don't even know
And
who won.
I just saw it. Uh, Actually earlier today, and College of Idaho wound up winning it.
Okay,
they
so
lost
that's who. Yeah, so that's who Tougaloo had to play. They lost to them, but that was in the Elite Eight, so the round of 8 or whatever you called it. Langston had a tough game on that Tuesday. Of course, last week we talked to Coach Chris Wright. We were really hopeful. They just kind of the shooting just wasn't there for them. And so, they ended up losing to Georgetown of Kentucky in the
who Langston lost to.
Yeah, isn't that what I said? Langston?
Yeah, I'm just saying. One HBCU lost to the champion. The other HBCU lost to the runner-up.
Runner-up. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. I got you. And so, yeah. Okay, good. So that just tells you, what we were facing. Langston was facing the second best team, and Tougaloo was facing the best team. I don't know. So, I mean, we can be outraged about the NCAA. Let's might want to turn our eyes and kind of be outraged a little bit over there. But congratulations again to Tougaloo and Langston on great seasons. We will release our championship final polls sometime next week. Probably next week's show, I would imagine, Drew. Probably next week's show.
That along with our season superlatives also.
Yeah, yeah. Over in the NIT, you had Alcorn State. They lost. They were in the opening round. Of course, Alcorn State got the bid as they won the tiebreaker over Grambling in the NIT. So Alcorn ended up having to travel to North Texas, which is in the metro Dallas area. They ended up losing 69-53 to them. So that was a tough loss. Second year in a row, Alcorn State has lost in the opening round of the NIT. We'll kind of get into some discussion here in a moment surrounding, should there been opportunities for Grambling or Norfolk State in the NIT? Probably should have been. Over in the women's NIT, Jackson State's women ended up losing to Memphis. Funny thing, Memphis is coached by a young lady, Katrina Merriweather. Coach, she's a product of the high school where I went to. She's good friends with my sister, who graduated from the same high school. So Coach Merriweather is about 4 or 5 years younger than me, came behind me at Indianapolis Cathedral High School. Home to also Sean Woods, who don't know whether Sean Woods is still the coach at Southern University. But anyway, she coached at Memphis. They beat Jackson State by, what was it, 9? Either 9 or 11 points. It was something like 9 or 11 points. Morgan State, Morgan State's women, did you see who, I think they lost, they lost to Wake Forest, I believe.
Correct.
Double digits. So that's who they lost to. Then in the women's NCAA, we had Southern playing in a first four against. Did I write it down? Who did Southern play? Sacred Heart? Was it Sacred Heart? I think it was Sacred Heart. They ended up losing that contest in the first four. And Norfolk State had to play the #1 overall and defending national champs, South Carolina. And Drew, guess what the opening line was in that game? South Carolina State versus Norfolk State, a 16 seed. Any idea? Any guesses?
No.
Let me give you a number. More or less than 40?
More than.
It was. It was actually 52. 52. The most disrespectful thing I'd ever seen in my life was that it was 52. And I wanted to run to the bank and go put every ounce I had on Norfolk State plus 52. And I'll tell you a couple of reasons why. One, there is no way Norfolk State, who was like 22 and maybe 6, 23 and 6, Norfolk State, there's no way Norfolk State was going to let anybody beat them by 52 points. This wasn't like a 17 and 17 team, right? No, there's no way. And then secondly, Dawn Staley is a history major, for lack of a better word. She understands and appreciates history. There's no way Dawn Staley was going to let her team beat an HBCU by 40 points or more. 40 points. No way. And look, how could she have prevented that? Oh, she could have played the bottom 4 or 5 girls, and told them, hey, we're running clock all the way down until 5 seconds, right? That's what she could have told them. There's no way she was going to let Norfolk State, but Norfolk State held their own, right? And even in the post game comments, for the second year in a row, you had a coach say that their opponent, an HBCU, was not the seed they should have been. And I think the quote was from Dawn Staley that Norfolk State is not a 16 seed.
Correct.
What's your thoughts on that, Drew? Second year in a row. We heard it from Kim Mulkey last year about Jackson State. We heard it from Dawn Staley about Norfolk State.
They may not be a 16 seed, or they may be better than their seeds are. Those teams may be better than those seeds are. The problem is, Brian, their conference ratings seem to suggest that they are those proper seeds. Now, Jackson State last year was such an outlier that they were able to overcome their conference rating and earn a 14 seed. Whereas this year, even if Jackson State, who had the highest net on the of the women, still would have been a 16 seed. Grambling still would have been a 16 seed.
Grambling, which one?
Men. Grambling men, I'm sorry.
Right.
Yes, the teams themselves individually may be better than that seed, but conference rating matters. And we've seen it play throughout this tournament today. I mean, this year, Brian.
Yeah.
These lower seeded teams are playing better than their seeds. It's not. Let's not just say it's us. When I say us, HBCUs, it's lower majors. Period. A lot of these teams, because they play in the power conferences, they're going to get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to a seed. You know, I take Fairleigh Dickinson, Brian.
Right.
Now, I don't know if you've noticed a trend, but ever since they've gone with the first four on a steady basis, someone in the first four winds up winning their next game, Thursday or Friday. And there was one year where somebody made it to the Elite Eight. I can't remember which year that was, about 4 or 5 years ago. Was that VCU that year? They made it.
That was feels like that was about 10 years ago, maybe close to 10 years ago.
It's been that long. I don't think it's been that long.
No, it's been that long. It's been that long since Shaka Smart. And the only reason I remember that is because a young man from out of Orlando was on that team as the point guard. And I remember, you know, he graduated high school probably about 99 and, you know, finished up at VCU in like 2012, 2013. If you look up VCU, when VCU did that, it was definitely back then. So go ahead with your point.
But little did we know that the team that was going to win on their first regular round game was going to be a 16 seed. You know, I had Arizona State as my one team that was going to come out of their first four and pick up a dub, which they almost did.
I did too.
But wow, Brian, that one just.
Well, and see, here's the thing, and so just kind of bring this into, you know, Howard's men ended up playing. Oh my God, they played a 1 seed. Who did Howard play? I can't. It's off the top of my head, and I'm forgetting now because there's been so many games. Kansas, right? Was it Kansas opening round game? Howard played Kansas, and they ended up winning. Yeah, okay. So they ended up losing, and then Kansas turned around and lost today to. It was just on the TV. Anyway, they lost. Somebody. They ended up losing today to an 8 or 9 seed. You know, and so that's who Kansas ended up losing to. But, you know, and then you had Texas Southern lost in the opening round to Fairleigh Dickinson. Now, here's the crazy thing, right? The Fairleigh Dickinson team, which knocked off Purdue, a #1 seed that had a one of the favorites for conference player, for national player of the year, excuse me, kid who's 7'4". The average height of Fairleigh Dickinson was about 6'4", 6'5". Their tallest guy might have been 6'6". Fairleigh Dickinson is actually a team who didn't win their conference tournament, didn't win the regular season in their conference, and the only reason that they actually went to the tournament, by virtue of playing in the championship game, is because the team that did win, Merrimack, actually was a transition team from Division II. And so because of the transition rule, they couldn't compete. So Fairleigh Dickinson ended up getting the bid. Then they knocked off Texas Southern. And then they ended up taking out Purdue. And so, I think they play today, which hopefully they play Florida Atlantic. That dream will probably come to an end tonight, but who knows? So it brings up, so that's sort of the recap of results, but it brings up a broader question which has come up, is that, 23 of the 32 conferences, there are 32 conferences, only have one selection among the 68 teams in the tournament. And so I feel like I've said this for a few years now. I'm gonna go back to my previous statements, Drew, about why one bid leagues even have conference tournaments. Okay, because if you want to send your best, if you want to have a shot of beating somebody on day 1 or day 2 of the tournament, your best teams have to go. Your best teams have to go. Now, we could debate all day. Who would that be in the SWAC? I mean, Grambling or Alcorn. I would, I know Grambling lost by 3 to Alcorn, but at the end of the season, Grambling had won 9 of their last 10. That one loss, guess what? In the championship game to Texas Southern. So who was playing better at the end of the season? Probably Grambling, right? But Alcorn beat them in the head-to-head. They got the tiebreaker since neither team made it to the championship or won the conference tournament. Then you have other tournaments, Drew, right? You've got 68 in the NCAA. You've got 32 in the NIT. You even have the CBI, which is actually a 16-team tournament, which is being played in one site in Daytona Beach. That's 16 teams. So again, do the math on that, Drew. That's 68, another 32, getting close to maybe 100.
That's 100. That is 100.
That is 100.
116, Brian.
So 116. Drew, how many teams are in Division I basketball?
300 and is it 356?
Higher.
More than 362. Somewhere around 350-ish.
363.
I was close.
You're right. 363. 363 Division I teams. So I don't know if that's even 1/3. 1/3. So
that is. That's about
1/3. It's about 1/3. So we're in this group, and we talk about HBCUs. We're no different. I don't know. I don't know if we are or not. Let me, and I'm going to say this, so please feel free to disagree. We're no different than the other 21 mid-majors that got one bid. Or are we? Because a lot of those conferences and teams are part of that 200 and 50 some odd schools that didn't get a chance to continue to play. Now, the next question is, what's keeping us HBCUs from playing postseason basketball in one of these other tournaments, Drew? And now we start getting to the conversation of what would it take for us to have a secondary postseason opportunity to play? I'll let you kind of jump in there with some thoughts.
Bryan, you're asking what's preventing us from doing this? Before I get into my comments, why don't we just bring on the comments of the master? Let's take a break and bring back the comments of the master before we speculate. That way we can cut out all the conjecture and the speculation on why we are not getting there. There's an answer on why we're not getting there, Bryan, and it has to do with our schedule and our schedule model. And for those who, I brought this point out when we were having our pre-show, Bryan. Some of our coaches, well, I can't put it directly on the coaches. Some of our administrators are too hard-headed to listen to the formula or refuse to believe the science, as they say. So, mull over that. Let's take a break, and let's hear from the man himself, Bryan.
Sounds good. And also, we want to play this clip from Charles Edmond's interview with Dr. McClelland right before the SWAC tournament. And you're going to hear from the man who's the vice chair of the NCAA selection committee, as well as the commissioner of the SWAC, and who will next year be the chair of the committee. And if you listen to the sound and you listen to the clips, he tells you why we are in the position we are in. So we'll come back with that interview as well as more on the other side. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. We'll be back in just a moment.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
Bounty versus the old family dish towel. Drying with a fresh sheet of Bounty leaves your hands cleaner than a used dish towel that can carry and redistribute food residue. So ditch the dish towel for better hand hygiene. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Q Time is our classic Atlanta soul food restaurant located in the historic West End. Q Time Soul Food is a family business started by Fred and Christine Crenshaw. Come on in, relax, and sink your chops into our tantalizing, mouth-watering, distinctive soul food with a twist, the Q Time way. 1120 Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, or call your order in at 404-758-2881. Do you miss your mama's cooking? Then come on down to Q Time, an Urban Passport member.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
Some carriers will give you just one measly entertainment subscription. One is no fun. With Verizon, there's up to 7 entertainment subscriptions with your unlimited plan. That's 7 times the... 7 times the... No. 7 times the... Music, gaming, Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN Plus, and more. That's 7 times the entertainment! Because everyone deserves better. And with plans starting at just $35, better costs less than you think.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan and A.D here. Appreciate you guys, all of you guys in the chats on YouTube and Facebook. Lively discussion going on in the YouTube chat. So Dr. Cavill's in there holding class. Shout out to Doc.
Office hours, Bryan. It's called office hours.
Shout out to Edward, Lawrence Q, DLOB 2010, EA's in there. Lennon Blow, Karen Griffin. Hey, Karen. Tamara T. I thought I saw her in there. Derek White, Demetra Alford. Shout out to you, Chris Lucas. Things up, Keith. Shout out, Keith. Let's see who else I see in there. Tamara T. Mary 305 jumped in. So Daryl Smith.
Daryl Smith.
Yeah. I did. I just said Daryl Smith. HBCU Talk. HBCU Talk. You guys make sure you guys shout out Kofi out there. He was a member of the 100 and a big time band supporter. I don't know who I'm going to go to this year when we start to talk about our band previews and stuff. That was always a great segment. I loved hearing from Kofi. So okay, and I also want to say before we play this clip from, again, this is from Charles Edmond, who he does he does segments with us. We call it Brave Talk with Charles Edmond. Primarily, of course, he is the voice of Alcorn State Sports Radio, and so he talks to the coaches and players and administrators. And right before the SWAC tournament, he had a chance to talk to Dr. Charles McClelland. And so we'll hear this clip, but I think we also got to keep in perspective, as much as we're talking about this on the men's level, the women's level, we might need to mention, or we should mention as well, because when we talk about former Alabama State Athletic Director, Miss Jennifer Williams, who I think she works with USA Basketball now, she brought up a great point to me in a comment on Twitter, that the representation is very much off on the women's brackets and the women's side of things. And so when we talk about 2 consecutive years where you've had coaches say that Jackson State, who was probably our best team last year, Norfolk State, who was probably our best team this year, both of them end up in seeds that really they were better than their seeding. And then you go look at who's on that selection committee. It's hard to rationalize and it's hard to understand where we are because of the lack of representation. I don't know if I truly buy into that, but I do think it is a factor. There's no one there advocating for HBCUs. And I don't know, I'd have to do a lot of digging in terms of our HBCU teams versus mid-majors on the women's level. You know, maybe there is a greater divide on the women's level than there is the men's level. Possibly. I got the metrics right here. But anyway, let's go to this clip. This clip right here, the first of 2 questions that Charles Edmond asked Dr. McClelland. And so we're going to play the first question, first answer, and then we're going to pause for a second and then react, and then we'll do the second. Go ahead, Mel.
That's the way the SWAC performed in non-conference, and we don't know, obviously, what's going to happen, whether it's Dayton or 16 or 15. We don't know how that's going to go. But just in terms of the SWAC conference, did it help itself in terms of what we did in non-conference? Of course, Alcorn beating Stephen F., Wichita State, Arizona State lost to some SWAC teams. How do you think the conference fared in non-conference to try to elevate its position in March Madness?
You know, I think we perform extremely well in non-conference, but one of the things that you have to be aware, you really don't know what those non-conference games are going to do or not do for you until the end of the season. So, for example, the Grambling win against, Colorado, the Texas Southern win against Arizona State. You don't know what those games are going to mean until the end of the season. They could be a quad 1 win, early in November. It might be a quad 3 win at the end of, March or at the end of at the beginning of March. But I thought we fared very well. I thought the Pac-12 agreement did for us what we wanted it to do, and that was to show America, given equal opportunity on our campus early in the season, that we can compete with anybody. We went 3-3 in that challenge, and if you add Southern going to Cal, which wasn't a Pac-12 SWAC challenge game, we actually went 4-3 in men's basketball. So, you know, those non-conference games are going to be important. Equally, playing NAIA and Division II teams hurts you. You want every Division I opportunity. And again, it's about who you play, where you play, and winning those games. But it is not all about winning. It's about efficiencies. So if you start off at the beginning of the year playing game guarantees and you get beat by 30 for your first 3 games, those efficiencies are going to be against you. What we're asking and what we saw with some of our teams this year is playing in the Pac-12 Challenge, playing some games early, competing in those games. You start off with high efficiency. So what do we talk about when we talk about efficiency? Offensive efficiency. How many points you scored and how many times you had to shoot to get those points. How many turnovers did you have? So if I'm shooting 55% from the field, 85% from the free throw line, I'm going to have a really good offensive efficiency. If I hold my opponents to 35% shooting in the field and, 18 turnovers, I have a real good defensive efficiency. My rankings are going to be high. Our issue is we start off getting beat by 30 and 40 at the beginning. Our efficiencies are so bad that as we start to do better, it's hard to make it up. And when we play each other, the efficiencies are so bad. We had 5 teams this year that were in the low 200s, which was really, really good for us. And we think that it is going to fare well. I'm not speaking as a committee member when I say this, but I'm speaking as somebody that tracks it. When you start looking at Alcorn State, for example, you have to look at his net. You have to look at his efficiencies. You have to look at who they play in non-conference to be able to determine where you think that they're going to fare. That is the reason why Alcorn is looking at, by Joe Lenardi and Jerry Palm and all of these people, a 16th seed, because they're looking at the preseason, how Alcorn started. So in order to improve upon that, you're going to have to start looking at early season scheduling and winning some of those games. It's efficiencies. You have to look at who they play in non-conference to be able to determine where you think that they're going to fare. That is the reason why Alcorn is looking at, by Joe Lenardi and Jerry Palm and all of these people, a 16th seed, because they're looking at the preseason, how Alcorn started. So in order to improve.
All right, I think we're back. There's a little bit of a delay there from hearing the producer, so I wanted to make sure we hit to that first point. Drew, what struck out from you in that first part of that question and answer with Charles and Charles?
Efficiency.
Yes.
Efficiency. It's one thing to go out and play these money games, like he said, but to play them and not compete is what the committee looks at. So, yeah, we have our opportunities, Brian. We played these money games, but we're not only we're not winning, we're not competing. And not only are we not winning those, but we're not winning those quad 3 games, nor are we competing, and I'm speaking in general, on quad 2 games, Brian. Now, you don't know how these teams are going to fare because you don't know if a Colorado or Arizona State is a quad 1 or a quad 2 until this time of the year. All you can do is go out and schedule them and hope that they're good. But it's almost a damned if you do and damned if you don't, Brian. You know why, Brian? Because if we beat them, that may be the difference between them being a quad 1 and a quad 2.
That's a good point.
You damned if you do, you damned if you don't, Brian. It's, yeah, you almost can't do it. But we've got to get smarter with our scheduling model. We've got to go out and cut down on the game guarantees and start playing more quad twos, quad threes, and lay off the D2s and the NAIAs. Look, Brian, you get 3 exhibition games. That's when you play your. That's when your Jackson States play your Toogaloos in the exhibition game.
Now, when do the exhibition games have to be played, though?
They have to be played before the start of. Usually, they have to be played before the start of the season, which is usually around November 11th, 10th, 11th, depending on the calendar. Usually, the second week of November. And I know, like the Florida A&M Albany State game, because I was at that particular game. I believe one of them counted it as a game. One of them did not count it as an exhibition game. Don't who there was, and sometimes you get into some stuff like that. On one level, they can count it as a game. On another level, they do not count it as a game. It's counted as an exhibition if they have not played their allotted number of exhibition games already. So, but staying away from those.
Let me ask this to clarify, because I think we need to let's give some insight into this. And you know a lot about this, a little more than me. The Division I schedule begins November 11th was the first date for men's. When can you start scheduling those, or when can you start playing? November 1 is November 1 the
those
first
exhibitions.
The exhibition. So you have a 10 or 11-day period.
Yeah, it's usually last week of October, first week of November.
About 2 weeks. There's about a 2-week period.
Yeah, about a 2-week window. Yes.
So the 2 weeks before the start of the first game. So here's the challenge with that, though. The NAIAs and Division IIs have already started their season, right? They already start playing.
NAIA has. Division II has not.
Okay.
Division II usually starts that Monday of the same week that Division I starts, on like that Friday, that Thursday. Friday.
So what you see is,
but once again, they still had that opportunity to play exhibition games. And the reason I know that it can count for some teams, not count for another team. I remember one year specifically when I was at Tuskegee, we played Talladega in a game. For us on our schedule, it was an exhibition game.
Division
for Talladega,
right?
Yeah, for Talladega on their schedule, it counted as a countable contest.
Well, because they're NAIA. I could see that.
And it counted as far as getting the number of, there's a lot of games. And the reason I remember this is because we happened to lose that game by 1 point.
Well, definitely want to keep it as an exhibition game.
Well, I just remember that because we lost that game by 1 point, and the reason because that was the season that we won the SIAC championship, the 2009-2010 season. But that just sticks out of my mind that it counted for them, did not count for us, and they went on and had a good season that year also.
When Dr. McClelland is talking about the efficiency ratings, what he's referring to, if you're not familiar with KenPom or KenPom.com, it's really a great site. It's available to anybody who wants to access it and have access to the same information that media uses and the same information that probably a lot of folks in this committee are using. I mean, it's like $20, $21. It's really cheap. But I'm just looking on the site, right? Grambling State was rated the highest HBCU team according to KenPom, but they were rated 182. Now that's 182 this year. I think at one point maybe the highest they were was maybe in the 160s. Okay, but what he's talking about when he says efficiency, offensive and defensive efficiency. Okay, and so offensively, Grambling was averaging 99.8 points per game adjusted offense. That is 282 out of how many teams did we say there were, Drew?
363.
Correct. But on the flip side, Grambling's defensive adjusted was 100.7, which was 92nd. They had a top 100 defense in terms of adjusted defensive margin. So, you know, when you talk about the metrics and how all this plays into, it's really amazing to look at. But the one thing that I heard him say is that you had 5 teams in the low 200s, which that kind of is good for mid majors. But in a second, as you hear this other clip, you're going to hear the other problem that persists and why it's a big challenge for the SWAC, maybe even the MEAC, to get an at-large bid. Mel, go ahead and play the second part of that clip.
Is it a dream for an at-large bid as well as an automatic bid for SWAC basketball? Is that something that we don't even need to talk about?
I think we have a long way to go. And quite frankly, and we talked about this, a lot of it has to do with the scheduling. We're not going to get there playing 8, 9, 10, 11 game guarantees. We're simply not, unless you go win those games. It's mathematically impossible for you to go on the road 11 games in a row and think that you're going to win 8 or 9 of those games. So there's still work to be done in order to get us there. Ultimately, we want to be a conference that's not relying on the AQ. We want to be a conference that's not a perennial 16 seed, but that's going to take a lot of commitment, outside of just what the conference office can do. It's going to take commitment on campus. It's going to take us making sure that we have the right academic people in place, the right trainers in place, the right scheduling in place, the right funding in place. There's a lot that goes into creating these programs, and it could be done. We've seen it in the OVC, we've seen it in the Southern Conference, and we have some schools, some programs that are tracking in that, direction. Everybody doesn't have 11 or 12 game guarantees. Everybody's not in the same position. But in order for those 5 or 6 schools to be able to get to where they need to be, the other 5 or 6 schools are going to have to bring their part up, because you can't enter into conference play with a net ranking or a Ken Palm ranking or all of these rankings being in the low 100s or even the 90s, 80s, or 70s, and then you start playing conference schools and it skyrockets. It's a collective effort.
Yeah.
So the bottom 6 are going to have to make sure that they carry their weight to be able to bring up the top 6 in order for us to get out of being just an AQ conference.
All right. So the biggest thing Dr. McClelland reminds everybody, and speaking specifically to Drew, do me a favor, pull up the SWAC standings, because he's not necessarily calling anyone out in particular, but we will. I want to know who the bottom 5 teams are in the SWAC standings.
You said bottom 6.
Because,
we're going men or women?
Men. Let's look at the bottom 5, bottom 16. Bottom 5, just 5, bottom 5.
Okay.
Because
I'll give you the back half.
Yeah, just the bottom 5.
Bottom 5.
Start from the bottom.
Texas Southern, 14-21.
Bottom 5?
Yes. Bethune was just ahead of them. Yeah, Bethune was ahead of them, 12-20.
Okay.
Texas. The best one was Bethune, number 6. Number 7 was Bethune.
Wait a minute. What are you looking at? Are you looking at the SWAC standings? Are you looking at the SWAC standings?
Yes.
The bottom 5 teams in the SWAC standings.
Yes. Number 8, Texas Southern.
Okay.
14-21. Number 9, Arkansas Pine Bluff, 10-21. Number 10, Alabama State, 8-23. Number 11, Florida A&M, 7-22. Number 12, Mississippi Valley, 5-27.
So when you go look at the schedules, now anybody can do this at home. Go look at the schedules for these bottom 5 teams. And as you heard Dr. McClelland say, right? If the conference wants to get to a point of, and Charles, I love the way he phrased it. Is it a dream for us to eventually get 2 teams in? Obviously, that means you need to have somebody win the conference, and then you need to have somebody be an automatic or an at large, right? And so you can't go into the SWAC conference was 31 of 32 rated conferences, rated 31 of 32. Okay. I think independent was 32. If I had to be honest, I think that's how that works. But anyway, um, those bottom five have to do a better job of not just their schedule, but wins. And as he just said, you can't win if you go 8 to 9 road games in a row. What was it 2 years ago where FAMU played 13 games in a row on the road?
We've seen Valley do it in the past.
Valley does it, yeah.
Was it Valley? Who was it that it was a SWAC team? They flew up north to like Minnesota or Wisconsin or something and bust their way back to Mississippi. I'm going to say it was Valley a couple of years ago.
I know Alcorn went to Minnesota.
Maybe it was Alcorn. But whoever it was, they started up there like Milwaukee, Wisconsin, or University of Minnesota. They played somebody, and they started busting around that whole corridor. Stopped to play somebody Illinois, stopped to play University of Missouri, St. Louis, blah blah blah. As they and then just literally bust their way back home every other day, playing somebody for a check. So. Yeah, Brian, it's tough, Brian. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, Brian. We've made this thing about Grambling. Should have at least made it to the NIT. And I wish Grambling would have made it to the NIT. But it's hard for a Grambling or a Norfolk, despite what their record is on the surface, to make it. When they have a net rating of 180 and 182 respectively, and everyone who received an at-large bid, I'm not talking about the automatic bid, I'm talking about the at-larges, had nets less than 100. Nets of 60-something, 80-something. There's a 100-point difference. This is why, despite our love for Grambling and Norfolk, that's why they get left out of these type of tournaments. Because their resume, if you take the name off, their resume does not equate to the mid-major and low-major teams that are out there. I'm sorry to have to bust everybody's bubble, but it's a fact. And you know, I'm a numbers man, Brian. The numbers don't lie. People lie. Numbers don't lie unless you got a good accountant.
Let me take it somewhere here. Let's look at scheduling here, because that's one of the things that we always talk about. And but don't sleep. Dr. McClelland talked about funding. He talked about having good about the trainers. The whole structure of your basketball program has to change. Now, Dr. McClelland probably can't mandate. He can only continue to, on platforms, continue to recommend and hope that maybe through the pressure of fan bases, that maybe through the pressure of fan bases and media, that somehow you can get the university presidents to really care. Notice I started there, because the athletic directors know. They know what the problem is. But guess who the issue starts with? University presidents. So I'm not going to put blame on your ADs and your head coaches, because the university presidents only allow so much money to go into the athletic budgets. They only give and allow so much money to get into the coffers of these athletic teams. And so when you have teams that have to go play 11 games on the road and bring in an X amount of budget, it's a trickle down. It's a reverse trickle down economics that it's bad for helping your teams be successful. And so
Here's the problem.
we're going to be in this loop that we may never come out of until a systemic change occurs within HBCU athletics. Go ahead.
Here's the problem, Brian. And with all my years in athletics, from coaching to administration, from parks and rec departments up through collegiate, Brian. Athletic administration, athletic budgeting, athletic departments are different from Gen Pop. The rest of your organization, be it as a municipality with a parks and rec department or your university. Total different dynamics. And for people who do not understand the unique dynamics of athletics, it is hard to convey that message across. When let's take these teams who just made it to the D2 tournament, Brian. Let's take a Miles or a Tuskegee.
Mm-hmm.
Just had to go down to what was it that they played at, Brian? I'm sorry, on the men's side. They played down in Florida, down somewhere
Tampa?
down your way.
Tampa
No,
University?
that was the women at Tampa. That was the women at Nova.
Oh, okay. They played
Nova Southeastern.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they played at Nova Southeastern, which is down in Florida. Brian, I want you to think about this. They get this invitation Sunday night at about 10 o'clock their time. That means Monday morning, if they don't already have a bus company on lock, they've got to find a bus company to transport them on Wednesday. You know how much a trip like that costs, Brian? And it has nothing to do with how soon you talk about taking off. We're just talking about mileage and time. You know, each one of them schools probably spent at least $10,000 on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to talk about the hotels. You know, probably spent another $3,000 on the hotels and food. They've spent $15,000 before they've even tipped off a basketball game for that postseason bid. Now, you get part of that money back from the NCAA, but you got to spend that money right there if you're going.
Yeah.
What happens is you have this divide where people on the one side of the house don't understand how fast, how quick everything has to move and how much stuff costs on the other side of the house.
The business aspects of athletics.
The business, because it is two separate businesses. Things that happen in athletics do not happen in general business.
At the school. At the school.
At a university, yes.
General business and the education process. Right.
Right. And when you have people who are great academians, they do a tremendous job. The academic programs, research, and the grants. But nobody cares about that $1 million research grant that your university just got. Nobody cares about this internship program that your institution just got. Everybody cares what was the score of the football game on Saturday. Everybody cares what was the score of the basketball game. And what it takes in order to get those W's on those particular days. people on one side of the house don't understand what it takes to get on the other side of the house. All they know is it takes, we're going to just say $10 million to run our athletic department, Brian. Go out, you got $10 million. You need to generate $10 million to cover your athletic department. If you get more than $10 million, you can keep it over there. But you got to generate this first $10 million. That's why these athletic directors are put in a position to tell these coaches and these kids, you got to play 10 games in a row. Because we got to go do this California swing. We got to pick up these full checks over here. Because the basketball team has to generate $1 million worth of revenue in order to cover its costs.
So what I think is an interesting question, and we're going to have more conversations about it, is we're talking a lot. I hear a lot of people fascinated about television rights and the money that comes with television rights. You know how
we got to have a product worth putting on television, Brian. Let's start with that.
Yes,
but
here it's the chicken versus the egg. It's the chicken and the egg, Drew.
But Brian,
what you got to have
the
resources to be able to put
3-20 basketball team playing a 5-22 basketball team on whatever station that it is. I'm sorry, the ratings outside of Mama and Daddy are going to be garbage.
Okay, but let me ask you this though. And I was trying to see who posted it. I've seen it out there as well. Operating expenses for small schools. Would you let me just use, I don't know. I don't know. We could use any one of our Division I schools that was successful this year. Howard, Grambling, Alcorn. Would you say their operating expenses for basketball are more or less than $166,000?
Probably, definitely more.
More. You say it's more than $166,000?
Yeah, you talk about expenses, just expenses.
Operating expenses, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And the reason I'm saying I know it's more, I just know how much some of those bus rides cost, Brian.
All right.
I know it's more.
The reason I brought that up is because it's out there. I've seen it on frontofficesports.com where when Fairleigh Dickinson knocked off Purdue, that was one of the big things they brought up. The operating expenses of Purdue basketball, which is like $2.3 million. Fairleigh Dickinson's operating expense was $166,000. So
I guarantee you the conference that Fairleigh Dickinson is in, and I'm sorry, I do not know what conference they're in. It's not
I think they're the NEC.
As the South.
That's true.
That conference is definitely not as spread out as the Southwest Athletic Conference, which goes from Florida to Texas through Louisiana, Alabama, and Mississippi. The travel alone, just the bus rides alone in the Southwest Athletic Conference is going to eat up that $166,000 and then some.
So we've got
or the plane flights if you fly to certain places.
We talk about improving the product. There has to be better coaching. Yes. Style of play has to improve. Efficiency has to improve. But also,
Brian, we are forgetting the most basic thing, Brian.
What?
We have got to fully fund our scholarships. I don't give a damn how good of a coach you got. Well, if everybody else is competing, Brian,
that's where I was going. I said the chicken versus the egg. What came first? Right. Which do you solve first?
How good you could put Coach K out there. If you don't give Coach K his 13 scholarships, he is not going to win consistently.
Coach K can work with 7 guys, Drew. I'm just kidding.
Give us our 13 scholarships. In women, give us all 15 scholarships. Let's start off with the basic thing. And for scholarships, Brian, that is easy. You know why that's easy, Brian? Because all that is an accounting entry. All you're doing is shifting money from one side of the house to the other side of the house. That does not take any effort from the administration at these schools. It's an
I would
accounting
love
move.
I would love to know. I would love to know, just within the SWAC, the 12 schools, how many do have the full allotment of their 13? You get 15, right? How many
15
are
men,
using
13 women.
15 men? Okay,
15 men.
so how,
No,
let's talk.
15 women, 13 men.
Yeah, I was going to say there's no way that women have less than men. You know, that would probably affect somebody's Title IX right there. So I'm curious how many of our SWAC schools are using their entire 13? How many of the women's programs are using their entire 15? Because that would be a great starting point to look at to answer that first question about budget, right?
Can I go to number two?
Number
Brian?
2.
You want to make us
Yes.
competitive? Cost of attendance.
Okay. Explain.
We had at the big schools, not only do they get their full scholarship, but they get cost of attendance. And cost of attendance is what it costs for a student to attend your university. If you take whatever your major state institution, we'll say University of Alabama or University of Florida, it costs the average student, say, $25,000 to attend that school. That's room, tuition, books, expenses, etc., etc. If they met at $25,000, that is how much that they can give you. Now, your athletic scholarship, which will cover room, room and board, tuition, and books, may be valued at 20 of that $25,000. Guess what happens to that other $5,000, Brian? You get a check. Now, at the HBCUs, bro, some schools you're lucky if you get your Pell Grant back. That's some creative. That's some accounting stuff. Now, I could take you inside of it. Now, when you talk about the Division II level, Division II, and a lot of people don't want to know this, do not offer scholarships, Brian. At the Division II level, it's called a grant in aid.
Okay.
The difference is a grant in aid means we take all of your financial aid that you get from the government, your Pell Grant, and like here in Georgia, you get the Hope Scholarship and whatever funding you get. Say it costs $10,000 for you to go to that school, Brian. If you get $7,000 in financial aid, they only have to cover up to $3,000. You don't see any of that. You don't get the cost of attendance at the Division II level, which is what allows your Division IIs to split those scholarships and get more players in under that money. But the catch-22 with that, Brian, is sometimes these schools limit you to only recruit in-state because it costs them less money. And also, Brian, a lot of our Division II schools are not funded. I saw somebody posted a while ago, Brian. What do we have to do at the Division II level so that we can compete and get out of that 7 and 8 seed or get out of the regional playoffs? We got to start with the basics. We've got to fully fund our scholarships, Brian. You can't ask for a team. I believe the number is 8 or 9 at the Division II level, as far as scholarships go. Maybe 10 on basketball. Mm-hmm. You can't ask me if I got 3 full scholarships to compete against HWCU with 10 scholarships on a consistent basis. I catch lightning in the bottle every now and then, but you can't ask me to do it year in and year out. That's not fair to me. It's not fair to these kids. It's not fair to these alumni. And I'm telling you, folks, go look, especially if you went to a public institution. This is information that is out there. You can find this out for your public institutions. Your private institutions, you're going to have to dig a little bit. until we get to the point where we can fully fund our scholarships, we can schedule anybody, everybody. We're not gonna compete on a consistent basis because we can't get the type of athletes in that we need to compete. Division One, Division Two, NAIA, YMCA. I don't care, Brian.
We've got an outstanding research project here that we have to work on. We got to compare the let's see. We'll just use we'll use the teams in the NIT, the CIT. You know, I did make a chart here, Drew, that there outside the NIT there is a third. Well, we mentioned it, the CBI. The CIT actually ended 20
hasn't been back since COVID.
2020 hasn't been back since COVID. And so I know I've heard now on a couple of different shows in a couple of different areas about creating a postseason or creating postseason opportunities for your upper tier HBCUs. And I'll tell you, if you guys didn't get a chance to hear Carlos Brown's show on Saturday, he and Charles Edmond and Coach Van Petway, great conversation with Coach Van Petway about this very topic. And I think it's a fascinating listen to. If you, again, let's just not jump on Twitter and Facebook. I look, you guys are gonna do what you want to do out there, but let's start finding and understanding what is happening around. It's like so many things are happening. It's hard to deal with just one. Again, I just said the chicken and the egg. Which came first? What do you deal with first? Do you want better coaching? You want better style of play? You want better recruiting? But then at the same time, we got to have better funding. We got to have better use of full scholarships, maybe even walk-ons, other things like that. Then you got to look at look at the spending budget of these teams who are playing in tournaments. Like, I'm curious, like when I look at the CBI, Drew, was Grambling or Norfolk State ever offered an opportunity to participate in the CBI? When I look at the teams that are in the CBI, were they ever considered? I don't know.
If you just look at the net, Brian, probably not. Just being honest.
Okay.
If you look at the net of the teams that's in the CBI versus Grambling, they probably were down there. If A doesn't accept, they move slowly up the list, but enough teams did not reject the bid to allow a Grambling or a Norfolk to get into the conversation. That's just being real. It's unfortunate, but it's real.
So if we can have a successful in-season event, like I'm just going to use the event that Michael B. Jordan hosted in Newark, right? That event drew somewhere close to 13,000 people, if I recall, right?
I believe so. I believe that's
there's got to be an opportunity there to say that was a 4-team field, 2 games. Would HBCUs, would schools, fans, fan bases, would you be drawn to a style of format similar to what the CBI does, where they have 8 teams and they're playing 1 round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds, I think over 3 to 4 days. No, excuse me, it's 16 teams. It's 16 teams over 5 days. So that might be a bit much. But let's just say, 8 teams over the course of 3 to 4 days. Sounds like a conference tournament. But anyway, would you go? Would you be interested in going? Could that happen?
Right. And you know this. A lot of people within our circle know this. I am on a committee that is putting together what you're talking about, Brian, and exploring this. And I want people to chime into the chat.
Is it just Division 1, or are they? You can only do one division?
Well, right now it is non-Division One,
Non-Division One. Okay.
and and it's going to be in a destination city.
Okay.
It's going to be in a warm destination city with a beach.
Okay.
Is the plan
Mm-hmm.
during this time of the year, spring break time?
Okay.
I want to know: are you interested in it? Will you support it? If you have a business, will you sponsor? If you don't have a business, you are just a fan, will you purchase tickets if you're in the area? If you do not purchase tickets, will you watch online? Tell me. So when we have our committee meetings, we can do this because we are dangerously close to having this together, Brian. I can't put it out any more details than this right now, but we've been watching all the comments on this, and this is not something that we just thought of last week, last month when we saw all the comments about teams getting screwed and everything like this. No, we've been working on this pretty much since COVID, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Okay.
when we got together and started on this, I was part of the Black College World Series, getting that off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a little something about getting something for us by us off the ground. But I'm just one of the committee members.
Wow. Hey, Drew, let's
do this.
Yeah, let's step away because we're running short on time, and I know we still have to get to our top 5 baseball and softball rankings for week number 2. So we'll do that on the other side, and maybe
Thank you, Edward.
do a couple of quick mentions about some candidates for Coach of the Year. I'd love to hear your guys' comments, whether it be Division Two, NAIA, Division One. Give us some nominees for Coach of the Year, Player of the Year in basketball. We'd love to hear from you. Again, next week we'll probably do the official announcement, but just love to hear some nominees. We'll kind of mention some names as well, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. On the other side, we'll be back. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap.
We are making the virtual HBCU experience available wherever you live through Stillman Online. We offer online degrees in business, criminal justice, psychology, and religion. Stillman also offers technology badges in cybersecurity and data analytics. You can participate in all student activities, fraternities and sororities, internships, graduation ceremonies, and much more. Apply for admission today at stillman.edu. Stillman College, where we prepare you for a different world.
Sugar Chateau Desserts is a specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
At Hampton Law, our primary goal is to provide non-traditional yet effective solutions and redefine the approach to client legal concerns. As your trusted legal advisor, we believe in sophisticated, personalized services that eliminate the confusion and complexity sometimes associated with legal matters. Our high standard for client care and concern, coupled with our extensive legal knowledge and skills, make Hampton Law a resource focused on the protection of the client's interest and overall goals. We value our clients and truly enjoy working with them. Visit thamptonlaw.com to conveniently schedule an appointment online. Tamika Hampton Esquire, 1631 Rock Springs Road, Suite 336, Apopka, Florida, 407-494-1471. thamptonlaw.com.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan and A.D. here. We got a quickly, we got to get our stuff and get out the door here. Want to make sure that you follow
They
us
done
on
turn the lights on in the club.
right. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at MyBCSN1, the number one. Please go download the Jericho Broadcast Network's app on the Google Play and Apple App Store. That's MyJBN, MyBCSN. And go find the BCSN Pod Zone. Everywhere that you listen and download the podcast, you can go and listen to, I mentioned Carlos Brown's show from yesterday. You can find that show. That'll be up on the Pod Zone a little bit later. But you can also find all of our shows, obviously, on YouTube as well. Or you can go to Carlos's show, or Facebook page, rather. So we'll make sure to push all that out. But BCSN Pod Zone, again, yeah.
Can one thing before we get into this, because I want to give people time to do this. To all of our listeners and fans, if you guys put a tip in the YouTube chat during this last 5-minute segment, we'll make sure that we contribute it to the Kofi Hemmingway Fund. So anybody who puts in a tip in the YouTube chat right now, we will put it in the Kofi Hemmingway Fund. I want to see everybody who's on here put at least $1, $5, $10, whatever you can. Let's give to Kofi's family right here during this last segment. So we'll be brief. We're only going to be here about 5 minutes. So you got 5 minutes to get it done.
All right. Second week of our baseball and softball rankings. Again, these are top 5 rankings for HBCU baseball and softball, Division I and non-Division I. And again, these records and rankings that you see are an all-inclusive record. So, I mean, they aren't divided up based on, only playing Division I's, only playing Division II, blah, blah, blah. This is a total record output. So, and these are games played through yesterday, Saturday. So let's see where we start based on which screen our producer puts up for us. That will be. Is that women or men?
That's Division II. That's Division
it's softball.
II
So
softball.
softball. Okay, Division II softball. I guess I got to get
Division
used to.
II NAIA.
I got to get used to this. Yeah, Division II. So this is the non-D1. So we'll start down in the Hunt. You've got Tuskegee, Bowie State, Jarvis Christian, Claflin, and Stillman. All schools down in the Hunt. Number 5 is Lane. Lane with a 19-3 record. Nice record there for Lane College, the Dragons, and the SIC. Number 4 is West Virginia State, coming in, not ranked or in the Hunt a week ago. So they've jumped into the rankings with an 8-7 overall record, 3-1 in conference play. Albany State, the former number 1 team from a week ago on our initial rankings, they've dropped down to number 3. 16-7, 9-1 in conference play. That might have to do with who they just recently played. Number 2 is Miles College. Miles jumped up from 4 to 2, 11-7 record, unbeaten in conference thus far. The new number 1 is Edward Waters, and the Tigers are coming in after being number 2 a week ago. They are 20-3 this season. They defeated Albany State, I know, on Saturday, and so I'm sure that had a lot to do with it, among other things. Any quick comments there regarding the rankings there, Drew?
Number 1
Anything I
played
missed?
number 3. Number 1 played number 3 this weekend. So just want to check that. Thus far today, Edward Waters has taken 2 of them today. They won 7-2 today, and they also won 4-3 today to submit that number 1 ranking.
So yeah, definitely strong case for number 1, legitimately holding that down.
Thank you, Lawrence Q. Thank you, Dr. Cavill. Need to see some other folks.
All right, let's go to the
Super
Division
Chat.
1. Division I level. Division I level. This is softball. Division I softball. Division I softball. In the Hunt, we've got Hampton at 9-11, Jackson State 13 and 16. Norfolk State stays put at number 5 with a 9 and 11 record. Florida A&M dropped a spot, so Rattlers very close to being at even. They're 11 and 2. That would indicate. I know they were playing a series against Bethune-Cookman. Number 3 dropped from number 1. That's Tennessee State. Tennessee State 13 and 12 and 1, 4-1 record in their conference. Alabama State, the biggest jumper of the week, not even ranked a week ago, comes in with a 13 and 11 record, unbeaten in the SWAC. They are number 2. And the number 1 team, it's the team with probably the most viral video that you will ever see so far in the softball season. It's the Grambling State Lady Tigers, 19-8 and 1, previously number 4. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just put Grambling State softball, and their chant, "Ball in the Dirt," is about the most amazing viral video. It's so rhythmic, and I love it. I love it. There's even a remix version too with a little beat on it too. So props to Grambling State Tigers in softball. All right, let's jump over to baseball rankings. Again, these are rankings, not a poll, meaning this is all computer-based, based on schedule and all the other stuff, and opponents, wins and losses, all that good stuff. In the hunt, West Virginia State, Edward Waters, Florida Memorial, and Virginia State. Those are schools that are in the hunt just outside of the top 5. Number 5 is Miles College, dropping from 4. They are 10 and 12, 7 and 5. Kentucky State moves into the top 5. They are number 4 with a record of 8 and 8, 7 and 4 in conference play. Talladega dropped from 2 to 3. They are 14, 9 and 1 so far. That's Talladega College. Number 2 is Savannah State. They actually flip-flop with Talladega. They are 13 and 5, 9 and 4 in play. And the number 1 team for the second consecutive week, the Albany State Rams, 14 and 4, 11 and 1 in conference play. So props to Albany State for being number 1. Any matchups or anything I might have missed there? I see we got 1, 2, 3, 4 SIAC baseball teams in there, and a soon to be possibly 5th member in there. So
number 1 Albany State swept in the hunt Edward Waters over the weekend, 3 games to none. I also want to send a shout out to HBCU Band Talk, and Tamara T also have made the Kofi contributions.
Thank you, guys. All right, let's go to the Division I baseball rankings. Top 5 baseball rankings for week number 2, second week for this. And we'll have our in the hunt teams here in just a second. As our producer, again, want to thank you guys for making your contributions there on the YouTube feed there. Appreciate you guys. And so, well, I'll just go ahead and read them here. I don't want to hold us up. I know she's working on getting. Okay, there we go. In the hunt is Alabama State and Alabama A&M, the 2 schools in the hunt. Number 5 is North Carolina A&T. They drop all the way down from the 2 spot to 5. They come in at 10 and 9, 3 and 3 in their conference play in the CAA. Number 4 is Jackson State, last week's number 1 team, 12 and 4, 1 and 1 in conference play. Number 3, Bethune-Cookman, the Wildcats move up from 4th to 3, 10 and 10 record, 2 and 0 in conference play. Number 2 with a big jump, 4 spots from out of the 5 into number 2. That's the Florida A&M Rattlers. It's always good to be in the Valley as they get right. They're 8 and 11 right now. And the number 1 team, the Texas Southern Tigers, moving all the way up from 5 to 1, 14 and 6 record. So congratulations to Texas Southern. But hey, you know, these numbers are fluid, so you got to keep winning, and you hope that the teams that you're playing, that they keep winning too. Keeps your strength of schedule good. Any final thoughts there, Drew, before we close up on baseball?
No, great job by Texas Southern. Conference play has opened up in the SWAC. Still have a couple of BIAC. BIAC has opened up also. So the former BIAC teams, I got to remember to say that former BIAC team. So let's see as these teams start playing each other again. And pay attention. Notice the other team that was in there from the East, Brian. That was Alabama A&M.
Mm-hmm.
It's Alabama A&M get in and knock off one of those Power Four in the East. Got a good shot at it this year. Last call for Super Chats.
All right, that's going to do it for tonight's show. I got to thank our producer, Mel, for producing this one for us. I want to remind you guys on Monday, go check out Off Script on YouTube. Just go check out, and you just type in Off Script on YouTube. I'm sure he'll do a great tribute to our friend Kofi Hemmingway, as he and Kofi did the Afterglow show every Monday night on his channel. And then, of course, Tuesdays is Dr. Cavill inside the HBCU Sports Lab. He and the professors get together 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central. And then on Wednesday, big show, the ONG Strike Zone, where Kofi called home as we talk about all things FAMU. We've got some guests coming in, and so I know that'll be an emotional show. So I won't be wearing any PV gear, I'll tell you that. I won't be wearing any PV. And my debt is paid, Doc, so I won't be wearing any more purple. Look like, anyway, I won't say it, but
psychedelic literature. Shout out to you. Thanks for your contribution.
Appreciate you guys. All of you guys. Thank you guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please make sure to follow us on social media accounts at MyBCSN1, the number 1. You can find Drew on Twitter at BCSN Drew, DREW. You can find me at DRB365. Go find the BCSN Pod Zone everywhere you listen and listen to podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, everywhere. That's going to do it for tonight's show. Thank you guys. And for Drew, I'm Brian. Take care of yourself. Hug your friends. Hug your neighbors. When someone calls and they say they're not feeling well, just give them a call. Do the best you can to love each other. That's going to do it. Peace out, everybody.
But my beats, they are hard.